Hey everybody, it's Josh D'Alessandro back with another episode of the Optimal You podcast. This is a special episode because it's about that time of year where everybody is making their big holiday plans, obviously traveling to families, loved ones, all types of different endeavors that might be a little bit different from our typical routine, which is perfectly fine and it's incredibly enjoyable. So first off, I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday filled with frivolity. I don't think I've ever said that word before, but that is fun. And just enjoyment, just accepting the fact that this life is filled with so many different things that we can do that provide us joy. And some of those things might be on the less healthy side of things, but an argument can be made that those supposed less healthy habits actually fuel a really healthy lifestyle, okay? So this particular episode is going to be about the dreaded New Year's resolution. And when I say New Year's resolution, I hear people like cowering in fear because a New Year's resolution represents that very, very dramatic change in life, right? So we often take ourselves from a situation where we've never tried something before and we reach for the stars, literally, and a lot of the times end up falling flat on our face, usually back into a bowl of Ben and Jerry's. So I definitely want people to listen to this podcast in a different way than usual because I want you to start planning these things out as I'm discussing it, right? When it comes to a New Year's resolution, one of my least favorite parts about a New Year's resolution is that people wait till New Year's. Resolutions are something that happen on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis, right? Resolution is a solution to a situation that's going on. So we're always facing endeavors of health. We're always facing changes and decisions that need to be put into place in order to enhance our well-being. So to make a resolution once a year implies that in order for this to work, it has to be at that one moment. And what I always try to tell my patients and my clients is that a New Year's resolution needs to be made in October, in November, in December, in July. Every single month should provide its own resolutions because it's not like one time of year is the only time you should be approaching these healthy resolutions. If anything, if that's what you are doing, that might be the reason why you are not accomplishing these resolutions in the first place, okay? So I don't think there's anything wrong with making resolutions at all. The only problem I do have is making a dramatic, really hard to reach resolution one time of year. That is a very daunting task, and it is no surprise I do not blame anybody for choosing this massive endeavor and then failing to accomplish it because it's so overwhelming and all you can focus on is that major accomplishment. Like the Empire State Building, which I'm actually looking at from my office right now, which is really, really cool. That's something you never get tired of. But it's one of the greatest structures on the planet. And it's not like somebody woke up one day, said, let's build this super amazing structure, woke up the next morning and it was built. That's impossible. There were plans laid, there were foundations, there were due dates, finances, whatever had to go into it in order for this incredible thing to be built. So in order for you to build this incredible version of yourself, there are little bits and pieces, small decisions along the way, small goals, small failures that are going to get you there. And I say small failures because I don't care how well you are doing, you are going to fall flat on your face at some point. Okay, we talked about it being in Ben and Jerry's. That might happen. I'm not going to lie. About 2 weeks ago, I tried Ben and Jerry's probably for the first time in about 4 years, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven, but really I woke up with like a weird stomach feeling, and then I was just mad at both Ben and Jerry. I was like, you guys ruined me. So it's no surprise that along the path we are going to fall off. But a well put together structured path is so much easier to get back on than this incredibly straight line that is so narrow that if you fall off, you're going to tumble down the hill. Okay, so in this episode, I'm going to discuss my favorite suggestions for making your resolutions, as well as just overall healthy holiday tips. And these holiday tips don't pertain to just Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, this time of year. It pertains to Thanksgiving. It pertains to July 4th. It pertains to St. Patrick's Day. I'm sorry, Irish people. I understand it's like the biggest drinking holiday in the world, but you still got to plan around it. And also, anybody else who's not Irish, stop pretending you're Irish. That is so ridiculous, okay? You're not Irish, stop drinking because of it. So, when it comes to resolutions, like I said, the biggest mistake is one, people make a ginormous resolution once a year, and that's it. They're done. You know, I have plenty of patients and clients that say, I want to lose 75 pounds this year. You know how hard it is to lose 75 pounds? To give you some perspective, I weigh 140 pounds, so that is more than half of me. And realistically, there are so many things that go into losing that kind of weight that if that is your primary focus, and I don't say goal, because that's a good goal to have, right? If you're 100 pounds overweight, you really got to get moving in that direction. But if you don't have an outside perspective and greater focus on other things that will help you accomplish it, you will fail. Okay, so in that situation, for example, you make this resolution that you want to lose 75 pounds. Okay, so the next day, all you're thinking about is these 75 pounds you have to lose, not the first 2, not the first 5, not the first change to the habits. It's all about losing this weight. So you start doing excessive cardio, you start cutting your calories like crazy, you're losing sleep because you're so stressed by the change that you've made in your life that within a month, you fall off completely. We always used to joke in personal training, because I used to work at a lot of gyms, that January 1st is like that scene in Mulan when they're getting chased by all the Huns and you just turn around and run for your life. Like, none of us wanted to work on January 1st because suddenly everyone is like, exercise is great and I'm going to change my life. Within 2 weeks, like 75% of those people have realized, wow, this is super hard and I'm not prepared. I don't want anybody listening to this to be that person, because there's no reason to be that person as long as you prepare accordingly, right? Like, if you're going to start a business, for example, you don't say, I want to start a business, wake up the next morning and say, I have a business. No, it takes months upon planning. It takes getting in touch with the right people. It takes accomplishing these smaller goals. So let's take this lose weight in general. Like, I'm not going to put a number on it, because to me, sometimes even putting a number is something that people struggle with, because then if you don't reach it fast enough, that's disappointing. So let's just say your goal is to lose weight. All right. So if that is your goal, write it down. And I want you, while you're listening to this, to write it down. So I'm going to do it as well, actually. So my goal is to actually gain muscle. All right. But let's go with the lose weight resolution. Okay. So I just wrote that down. And writing things down, like I'm already looking at it, write it in like at the top of the page too, so that you have a ton of room to just branch off. All right. So the next thing, what are some of those things that would apply and help you lose weight? Okay. Number 1 is pretty straightforward, right? Exercise is the first thing that comes to mind. That's very, very general in itself. So that is a smaller resolution under the big resolution. Okay, so I'm calling these sub-resolutions, because sub-resolutions are kind of like the small puzzle pieces that create the puzzle itself. So in terms of exercise, where do we go from there? Number of workouts, right? So number of workouts would be how many times a week or how many times per month, right? So now we already have a new goal. The new goal is to increase the number of times we go to the gym per week and per month. Okay, awesome. Now from there, what do those workouts entail? So increase HIIT training, right? Increase resistance training. So we already have, just by looking and really diving into what it would take to lose weight, I created 2, 3, 4, 5 new resolutions. Now, that sounds a little bit daunting, but what's more daunting? Saying, okay, well, one of my resolutions is to get to the gym more often, so I'm going to do that, or my resolution is to lose 100 pounds. Not going to lie, if all I have to do is get to the gym a couple of times a week to start accomplishing my resolution, I feel a lot better than saying, let's lose a third of a person. Okay, now, what else comes into play with regards to losing weight? I know what you guys are thinking, diet. If you haven't listened to my DIE, diet versus nutrition podcast, please listen to it, because that is the last time I will use the D word. Okay, so with nutrition, that's a very, very general one as well, right? It's like, well, nutrition is all food. So now you have to sit there and think, well, my goal is to lose weight, right? So what you should do is list poor habits, right? So even I have fairly poor habits. I eat a decent amount of processed protein. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's very easy for me to go, even though I'm getting like Applegate turkey and organic, it's still processed because it has additional substances that make it last longer. So my current poor habit is to cut out some processed meats, okay? And that's going to help with inflammation, etc. But list all of those poor habits, whether it's portion control or whether it's drinking too much, right? So alcohol, whether it's eating too much sugar, right? And if these are bad habits, what do you think you should do with those bad habits? You should decrease those, right? So just looking at the nutrition side of things, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 more resolutions that we just came up with that are going to help you reach that lose weight goal, okay? Do you have to accomplish all of those? Absolutely not. But have these written down, right? So, for example, if you spent 1 week focusing on portion control and you're crushing it, put a check next to portion control because you did that, and that is part of the achievement process of a resolution. However, if the alcohol is still a bit of an issue, put in progress, all right? Because it's not like because you didn't do it in the first week, it's a moot point. No, it's an in progress process, right? This is never done. That's my point about resolutions. There's a resolution every day, every week, every month, whatever it is, okay? Even more with the nutrition. So what do you think the things are that you should improve? For me, believe it or not, I don't eat enough vegetables. I work with a couple of people who are very, very, not vegan, but close to it. And if they tell me one more time I need to eat more Brussels sprouts, I'm going to chuck one at their face. But they're not wrong because cruciferous vegetables are needed in my nutrition plan. So I would have to increase vegetables. And what's another thing that a lot of people do? Eating too many bad carbohydrates, right? So increase good carb intake. And then increase lean protein, which is something I've talked about plenty. And then healthy fats, right? So increase healthy fats. And if you don't know what those sources are, that's also totally fine because that's why I'm here. I recently released an episode on healthy fats and healthy carbs, so hopefully that gives you enough information. But if it's not enough information, please reach out to me. That's why I'm doing this, okay? But once again, in total, we have exercise and nutrition as 2 sub-resolutions. We have number of workouts, times per week, times per month, that's 3 more. And then we have HIIT resistance training. Then we have portion control, alcohol, eating too much sugar as the negative habits that we want to resolve, right? Resolve, resolution. And then increase vegetables, increase good carbs, increase lean protein, increase healthy fats. So that one lose weight goal now has 11 sub-resolutions. Now, once again, this might seem daunting, but even if you did 2 of these things, right? 2 of these things is better than trying to do either all of them at once or having no idea which ones to do, right? So, sub-resolutions, a fantastic way to get this rolling. Okay, what else is usually factored into losing weight? Here's one that a lot of people do not consider, and it's one of the biggest increases of stress. It's one of the biggest increases of cortisol in our body, which is going to lead to fat storage and decreased muscle mass, and that is sleep, okay? Sleep is huge when it comes to losing weight because when we have very, very poor sleep, what our body starts to do is it produces high levels of cortisol to help break down fuel so that we have more to use, right? Because there's this fear that the body is undergoing a very aggressive stress state. So when we sleep, in the first hour and a half to 2 hours, we actually have a really good spike in growth hormone, and we also have a spike in testosterone. So while you're sleeping, if it's deep, comfortable, quality sleep, you're actually increasing your anabolic hormones, which is going to decrease cortisol, right? It works like a seesaw. However, if you're, sitting in front of a screen all night or watching YouTube videos, believe me, this time of year, I always watch these soldiers coming home videos, and I swear to God, I'm crying for like 30 minutes before bed. And then I also can't sleep well because of the blue light exposure. So screen time before bed is a huge one. Ingesting too much caffeine before bed is a really big problem for a lot of people as well. And there will be an episode on caffeine, but for now, I'm going to keep it simple and say If you're sensitive to caffeine, you should not be drinking any type of caffeine hours before bed, even, because that's going to fully disrupt your adrenal hormones, and that's also going to make it difficult to sleep. Okay. So going to bed hungry, that's another big one for people. If you go to bed hungry, that's one of those things where your body is going to wake you up, because regardless of the fact that you're at rest, the body still requires fuel. Like, that's what's so interesting about the human body. And I make a really interesting connection to a car, for example. But when the car is parked, it's not using fuel. When we are sleeping, our body is still using fuel because it requires so much ATP energy just to be alive. So I don't encourage loading up on carbohydrates before bed, but there is nothing wrong with having a protein-based snack, for example, or a healthy fat snack an hour or so before bed so that you can sleep comfortably through the night. If you find that you're someone that can't sleep on a full stomach, don't force feed yourself, but do not stop eating at 6 o'clock if you know that you get hungry and it wakes you up, because the last thing you want is severely disrupted sleep. Okay, so what are the sub-resolutions of sleep? Sub-resolutions would be less screen time, right? That's one. Sub-resolution would be less caffeine before bed. That's two. A sub-resolution would be 30 minutes of just deep breathing. Even 15 minutes of deep breathing in a dark room will help you relax and enter REM sleep. What's another sub-resolution? Making sure you're getting 7 to 8 hours. Like, it seems simple, but it's obviously not. So these sub-resolutions are going to pertain just to that. Okay, so we just talked about exercise, nutrition, sleep. And those are 15 sub-resolutions at least that pertain to that big lose weight goal. So although this seems a little bit more daunting, what seems more prepared? What seems more like a plan going forward that is going to get you there? I'm going to go with what we just created, which is all of these sub-resolutions that pertain to a lifetime of improvement, okay? So when you're making these resolutions, like I said, write them down. For mine, it's gain muscle, right? So I know that I'm going to have to increase my weight training. I'm going to have to increase my carbs a little bit. I'm going to have to take more rest days. And I'm also going to have to hydrate a little more, maybe take some new supplements. So I also have a plan in mind. But I never write down a goal and leave it at that. If you write down a goal and do not approach things with a sub-goal, that is the easiest way to fail, okay? So please take that into consideration about writing everything down. Log everything you do. If your goal was to increase the number of workouts you did, right, especially during the week, and 1 week you did 2 workouts, technically speaking, if you did a third workout next week, that is improvement. You want to progress as often as possible, even if it is little, even if it is small, even if you went to the gym for 30 minutes one day and then the next day you went for 35, that is still a marked, measurable improvement on what you did beforehand. And when it comes to the resolution of losing weight, which, like I said, is definitely the big one, don't be afraid to weigh yourself, obviously, and track the weight, because I know that is part of your goal. But if you lose a certain amount of weight 1 week and you get super excited about that, and then the next week the weight loss is not substantial, you have to have a short-term memory with that. Because if you lose a little bit of weight versus that first week, first of all, there's a very good chance you're either going to decrease your poor carb intake and increase exercise, which is going to deplete water, right? When we utilize carbohydrates, we utilize water to store it. So if we lose carbohydrates through fuel breakdown, we're going to lose water weight, which is the science behind water weight, okay? Second week, you only lose 2 pounds. But go back to that checklist. It's like, oh, well, I controlled my portions. I got to the gym 4 times this week, which is great. I did 3 resistance training workouts, and I slept 7 hours 4 times that week. I don't care if you lost 2 pounds. That is awesome. You did something from every single one of those categories, and now you have to continue building up. If you lose 75 pounds in the first 3 months, I don't like to guarantee anything, but I'm 99% sure that weight is going to come back like a boomerang, right? That's actually what I call it, is boomerang weight, when people lose weight too quickly, because you're not trying to shock your system. How do you feel when somebody says you have to change this habit about yourself right now? Even if you are a cold turkey kind of person, there's still that immediate, oh God, that's nerve-wracking. Oh, I don't know if I want to do that. That's what happens when you force yourself to do things quickly. So I'm telling you right now, this process is going to be aggravating. This process is going to be slow. It's going to be grueling, but it's also going to mean more than anything you can achieve in your entire life, because as I've said many times before, everything gets better in your life when you improve your overall well-being. Like if you're on high blood pressure medication and you stick to these recommendations that I just gave you, you will be off that blood pressure medication in a month. If you struggle getting up and down the stairs, right, you will start to feel improvement within the first month. If you are huffing and puffing, walking around, getting from place to place, and you administer these changes, you will feel better in the first month. Now, listen to those 3 goals. None of them have to do with weight. None of them. Because those sub-goals are getting you closer and closer to the big goal that you might reach without even noticing. Like, that's what's so great about these sub-goals, is the fact that they pertain so much to the big goal, and every day you're having these little victories, right? Like, for example, let's talk about baseball. It's one of my favorite sports. I'm a Mets fan, so I don't understand why it's my favorite sport, because I honestly have lost a lot of hair just watching this stupid team play, but that's for a whole different discussion. When it comes to baseball, it is a 162-game season. You don't win one game and make it to the World Series. It takes winning streaks. It takes losing streaks. It takes injured players. It takes, hot streaks. It's the same thing with this huge goal. Every step of the way is not going to be exactly the same. Every win is not going to be as big as the next. Every time you win some, you lose some. That is how it works in this industry. 2 days ago, I went to the gym and I felt like absolute garbage, and there was no reason for it. Like, I ate well, I slept 8.5 hours, actually 9 hours. And believe it or not, that was the problem. Because on average, I get about 7.5 to 8, and that is like my prime zone. 9 to 9.5, I actually feel overtired. So today, I slept my 7.5 hours, destroyed my workout today. It was amazing. But I didn't let that one small failure, which I don't even consider failure, to set me back. I knew what the problem was, and the reason I knew what the problem was is because I make charts like this. I make sheets and goals. Because once you start achieving these things, you can go back and say, well, why didn't this work? Oh, that went well. Oh, this is what I know about me. For example, if you don't like to eat before bed, granted, I made that recommendation, but you can sleep through the night without eating before bed, that's you. Me? If I don't eat 30 minutes before bed, I am up 2 hours later. That is just me. I love breakfast in the morning. I absolutely love it. I eat probably while I'm still in bed. I like sleep eat. It's absurd. I'm so hungry in the morning. Whereas other people just cannot do it. So do not force yourself. But when it comes time to eat that nutrition, I can have the same thing in common as you. It has to be quality. That's it. When it comes to individualizing things, there are, a lot of different variables that can make a difference. But there are certain things that just across the board have to be the same no matter what your goal is or who you are. And that is quality over quantity. It is thoughtful, thought-provoking, movements in the right direction. Every single day is a win. Every single workout is a win. And you just have to understand that no matter what, the process is going to be difficult, but you got this, right? If you plan accordingly and you utilize resources such as myself, you will not fail. And as long as you always remember that you will not fail, it's okay to fail. I know that sounds really confusing, but failing is the first step to succeeding, okay? So you will not fail in this overarching goal as long as you approach every single day like a new chance to win, okay? That is what your resolution should be. Your resolution should be every day I need to win at something that I have chosen to do. Whether it's exercise, whether it's nutrition, whether it's spending more time with your family. For example, just watching TV and eating is one of those habits that actually leads to excess calorie intake. So if one of your resolutions is to lose weight, spending time with your family, such as eating food at the table, could actually fit that goal, right? So just off the top of my head, I have like 25 different sub-resolutions that pertain to this lose weight, and all of them will help you improve, even if you don't do them all at once. So consider every little thing that will help you get there. And like I said, win every single day. That's all you can do. That's all I'm asking. I am a guiding hand through this entire process. If there's a lot of good information here, but you want a little bit more specific and you need someone on your shoulder going forward, that is who I am. Okay, so take the time, listen, make that chart and make those lists and present them to me, and we will get through this together. I'm not going to say good luck because you got this. It's a lot easier than I make it out to be. It's a lot easier than you make it out to be. Just always do it for the right reasons and do it for the best version of yourself. All right, so have an amazing holiday. Make those resolutions if you want to, but please make those sub-resolutions. Get after every single one of them and you will succeed. All right, goodbye.